There was a document dump in the Jeffrey Epstein disclosure files yesterday. The files that have dropped are revelatory. I say they are, in fact, groundbreaking, shocking, outrageous, not because they incriminate Trump at all, full stop, because they, in fact, basically fully exonerate Trump as an individual, despite all of the scheming of the dirty, rotten scoundrels, pathological liars, scum of the earth, capital D Democrat politicians. There was a whole, 20,000 documents dumped yesterday. I'm trying to keep up with it. I'm trying to go through it. And we're going to go through the highlights, or at least the highlights that have been brought to my attention since the dump. But I'm going to show you, and starting with the biggest POS out there. He's tied for first with a bunch of others. I'll give you names. The biggest, tied for first, scumbag SOB POSs out there are Adam Shifty Neck Schiff for Brains McSchiff, Adam Kinzinger. What's the other guy's name there? Kinzinger, Schiff. We'll go with Leticia James, obviously. New York Nipple Judge Engeron. Adam Kinzinger. Did I already say that one? Who's the other one I'm thinking? Oh, Eric Swalwell is the one I'm thinking about. I could name Nadler. That other one there. Chuck Schumer. The scum of the earth. This guy's tied for first with all of them. Rep. Dan Goldman. Now, I am going to play the whole thing. It's a little long, and you've got to appreciate, I'm not going to give you the punchline, although many of you already know the punchline. If you know the punchline, it's going to be infuriating to watch this. And if you don't know the punchline and you're watching today, I'm curious as to how you got here. Listen to this. This is the tweet. And the people who argued that Trump should not have presidential immunity sure as sugar appreciate and enjoy exploiting of their own Westfall Act immunity as federal employees. They sure as hell love to push the limits for what would otherwise, I would say, objectively be defamation. But they've got immunity while they sought to deny Trump his presidential immunity. Rep. Dan Goldman, who's, I think he's worth $500 million. I'll double check in a second. We now have reliable, direct evidence connecting Donald Trump to Epstein's underage sex trafficking ring. These might be the words that trigger the algorithm on CommieTube. And appreciate the words here, because this man, if he's not intelligence, he's working with intelligence despite being thoroughly lacking in intelligence. We now have reliable, direct evidence connecting Donald Trump to Epstein's underage sex. What's the connection? I won't spoil the surprise. Trump's DOJ cover-up of the Epstein crimes must not continue. This right here is what some might refer to as a hoax. A cover-up. There's been a botched delivery. That for sure is sugar. The Justice Department must release every piece of the Epstein files. Only time I'll ever agree with Dan. No more secrets. The American people, the survivors, and the victims deserve the truth. He's this man. Watch this. I'll pause it periodically.
Hey there, everybody. Big day in Washington, D.C., and I want to focus on the Epstein files because there was some significant news. And
by the way, this is like Better Call Saul dollar store version.
It wasn't just that finally, after 50 days, Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva was sworn in and became the 218th signature and final signature on the discharge petition to force the Department of Justice to turn over all of the Epstein files. The bigger news, in my view, is the release of emails that relate directly to Donald Trump's knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's underage sex trafficking ring. The big one to me is an email in 2011 from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell saying that Donald Trump has surprisingly been quiet, but that he was with one of the victims for hours. Now, the reason why this one is so important.
It's so important. They, and as far as I understand, the Democrats redacted the name of the victim. It's so important. And it was especially important that they redact the name so that nobody could know who it was until unmasked.
Is Donald Trump was not running for president. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't getting asked about Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form. And he was communicating in private with his co-conspirator. He was communicating in private with his co-conspirator. Let those lies sink in for a second. co-conspirator statements are admissible in court. And the reason is that they are generally reliable. When you make incriminating statements to your co-conspirator.
I'm sorry. He's talking about Jeffrey Epstein making admissions to his co-conspirator about Donald Trump. And that admission, that statement being that Trump spent hours with victim one who was redacted.
That is against your own interest, and therefore it's deemed to be reliable. So the fact that they are discussing Donald Trump's knowledge and involvement in the Epstein's underage sex trafficking ring.
That's not what they were doing, but set that aside.
Just confirms what we knew from Donald Trump's 50th birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003, alluding to these secrets. And then the statement he made about how Epstein is known for liking girls on the younger side.
Yeah, which was the reason for which he banned him from his club earlier than that, I believe.
The House Oversight Committee that received these emails did not get them from the Department of Justice. They got these emails from Epstein's estate, which they had subpoenaed. The Department of Justice has not given them anything. And in fact, just today, the heads of the Department of Justice were meeting with Donald Trump and Lauren Boebert, trying to convince her to pull her name off of the discharge petition so that this cover-up can continue. But the cover-up is real, folks. It is real. It is significant. We now have confirmation that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. And it is long past time that the Department of Justice turn over all of the files. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more to come.
You appreciate the pathological dishonesty of that. Now, the punchline, which Dan Goldman doesn't get to in that video, which I've asked why Community Notes hasn't gotten to in that post. We all know who the victim was. The victim one that was redacted by the Democrats was Virginia Giuffre. Now, a lot of people are saying that she had already tested. I mean, a lot of people are making the point that Virginia Giuffre had already testified that Trump was nothing but cordial with her and that he wasn't involved at all. And that the reason why they redacted the name was so that no one would know who victim one was, to know that it was Virginia Giuffre, to put two and two together, that Virginia confirmed that Trump had nothing to do with anything and never did anything to her and was only a gentleman. That is one of the reasons for which they redacted the name, so that people wouldn't know that it was Virginia Giuffre. The other reason is plausible deniability. Do you remember the statement that Dan Goldman just made? Connection to, in the book. First of all, everyone already knew Trump was in the Epstein files, in that he was in the black book as a contact, like Alec Baldwin, like thousands of other people. In the Epstein files, just as a pure matter of fact is irrelevant, many people were in the files without any criminality, without any guilt or suspicion. They pulled the same trick that those CIA agents pulled with the letter of the 51 intelligence officers saying this Hunter Biden laptop bears the earmarks of a Russian information campaign. They're suggesting the talking point that the media run with, repeat to make truth out of, that it was a Russian operation and not true and accurate. A connection two. What's the connection? Victim one that we've redacted and didn't identify was Virginia Giuffre, who had subsequently exonerated Donald Trump, said that she spent hours with him. Trump spent hours with a victim of his sex trafficking. What's his name? Epstein. Do you know what else is particularly dishonest about this? Virginia Giuffre was an employee at Mar-a-Lago. Some of you might say why she was an employee there. Look, people work places, and to the extent it was in conformity with Florida law, which by all accounts it was, she was an employee. Now, I don't know what the purpose of the meeting was, but you could literally say and run an equally misleading headline, although it'll be easier to discover, because if you say Trump had employment contract with one of sex victims, you'd know who they were talking about. They did this and they tried to conceal the fact that it was Virginia Giuffre, and they tried to manufacture the fact that there was something suspicious or incriminating about it. Dan Goldman is the biggest SOB on earth. And it only goes downhill from there. Let me bring up a video from Xavier de Rousseau. Let me just see something here. You see, I'm not even going to read his bio, but I've met him. He's a good, cool guy. This is his take on it, and it'll be clarifying as well.
The House Democrats just exposed Trump for being with an underage Epstein victim for hours, except they lied to you. They redacted the girl's name because it would blow up their entire story. The alleged victim, Virginia Giuffre, was crystal clear in her deposition, as well in her own self-written memoir, that President Trump did nothing wrong, was actually very friendly to her. Did you see Trump and Epstein together? No. Did he flirt with you? No. And so on. These Democrats have no integrity, they are evil, and they have learned nothing from what the rhetoric did to Charlie Kirk. The House Democrats just...
He's not wrong. I'll give everybody the link to that tweet so you can all have the receipts. I think I've been sending some of these tweets to private chat. So that's part one. If there is, yet again, the exact same operation that they played with the intelligence letter. And I'm going to post my my talk that I gave at the New Orleans Investment Conference on my channel sooner than later. And the theme of it was, this is how disinformation, propaganda, manufacturing consent 2.0 works. You take a crisis, you get your so-called experts, or you get your evidence, you get the media to report, the media to repeat, and then you have fake truth. So that's part one. What is absolutely mind-blowing from these documents, and if you haven't read through them, set aside the attempt to manufacture evidence and make it look like Trump was guilty of something that he wasn't. Greg Price posting, Democrats intentionally redacted the name of the victim in the Epstein emails they released. The unredacted version shows that it was Virginia Giuffre. She had already tested multiple times that. And who posts this lie? And look at the way the oversight Dems post this. What is it an official account or not? It's not. It might actually be an official account. It is. It's got a gray check mark. Breaking. Oversight Dems have received new emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate that raise serious questions about Donald Trump and his knowledge of Epstein's horrific crimes. No, it doesn't raise any questions. It actually provides answers. Trump knew. He knew. He barred Epstein. He cooperated with authorities. Mike Johnson, I'm not going to play the clip, but the clip is out there. Mike Johnson saying that, he was an FBI informant. I think he used the word informant, and I think he immediately realized he shouldn't have said it. But Trump knew, kicked him out, cooperated with counsel, and cooperated with the FBI. Raises serious question. No, he was suspicious of Epstein, probably knew, and did in fact know and cooperated with authorities pretty much in the same way everybody else knew. Like when Ricky Gervais gets up there and makes his jokes, it's not because people don't know. But it gets even worse, and this is going to go back to Greg Price again. Check, this is absolutely amazing. Michael Wolff, we're going to get to him in a second. The only scandal Democrats revealed by their latest attempt to revive the Epstein hoax is that Michael Wolff, who we've been reliably informed is the greatest journalist of all time, was apparently giving Epstein rapid response advice. This is I've been needling Michael Wolff all morning. Hey, Mike, is this you giving PR advice to a known child sex trafficker or child sex exploiter? Because everything is dates. Michael Wolff, his email address, which they've redacted, to Jeffrey E. Now, we're going to get back to this as well, everybody. JEEvacation@gmail.com. Just remember that email address, and we're going to come back to it. Heads up. This is in response to Michael Wolff writing, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards. Importance level high. I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. This is sort of the opposite of blackmail. This might be blackmail in and of itself, but people purporting to claim that there's no evidence Jeffrey Epstein engaged in blackmail, political blackmail, or extortion via his sex trafficking ring. Apparently, he trafficked children to nobody. Evidence right here. Evidence with him blackmailing Bill Gates with his extramarital affair. Set that aside. It'll give you valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win the election 2016, you could save him generating a debt. Why in the name of sweet holy hell is Michael Wolff, who then goes on to write a memoir that tries to mock, humiliate, embarrass the Trump administration, why is he giving advice to a convicted sex offender? I mean, I've got my theories, pure personal theories, maybe because this man as per his advice, confession through projection, is indebted to or beholden to Jeffrey Epstein for reasons. We won't know those reasons now because Jeffrey Epstein's dead. Dead men tell no tales. Why in the name of sweet holy hell would Michael Wolff be giving political advice to a convicted sex offender? Ponder over that one for a second. Opine, I should say. Of course, it is possible that, when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. That is shocking. And we're not done with Michael Wolff just yet. There's more. But wait, there's more. Do I want to pull up some of my here, let me see what there was. This one that Michael Wolff also had to say. It's egregious. Michael Wolff to Jeffrey Epstein at jeevacation@gmail.com. Hi, priority. Now could be the time. There's an opportunity to come forward this week and talk about Trump in such a way that could garner you great sympathy and help finish him. Interested. This is September, October, November 29th, 2016. Is that what it is? December, January. Help finish him. Who does? Let me just see something here. Who does Michael Wolff write for? I think it's the New York Times. I just want to make sure. Journalist, email. I think he wrote. Let me see here. I'm fairly certain he wrote for the New York Times. Let's just go Times. It's not finding because I got a fat fingers here. Times. Okay, so no, New York Times bestseller. He worked for the New York Times as a copy boy. Well, that's not really good enough. He published his first magazine article in the New York Times in the 70s. Shortly afterwards, he left the Times, became a contributing writer to the New Times, a biweekly magazine. All right, whatever. This man is a journalist, purportedly reputable, great author, actively colluding with a convicted sex offender to take down the potential president. Although I think at that point, Trump had already gotten elected. When would fairly certain the election would have already occurred at that time. Take him down. And I say, but wait, there's more. I say, is that you, Michael Wolff? Like, are you giving advice to this man? And if so, what do you have to say for yourself? So thus far, the confirmation that we've gotten is that Trump was with Virginia Giuffre for hours, capacity unknown, but totally exonerated by her own admissions, under oath and in the book, and that Democrat operatives are working with a convicted sex offender to try to take down Donald Trump. What do we have here? Well, we're gonna get to even more. This one comes from C3. There's just you have to like rely on the aggregate knowledge of the internet or some form of AI to search through the documents. This one now involves Kathy Ruemmler, and keep that name in mind as well because these names are important. Scrolling down, it says you need to talk to boss, and that is from JEE. Yeah, that looks like I thought that was a different email address. JEE. Jeffrey Epstein. His middle name is Edward. Jeffrey Edward Epstein saying you need to talk to boss. Then you got Kathy Ruemmler saying agreed, but I need to be prepared to say yes before I talk to him. Then we go up here. Then we see understood. This is Jeffrey Epstein. It comes down to high risk reward, low risk reward, professional, emotional, and financial. To which Kathy Ruemmler says, most girls do not have to worry about this crap. Excuse me. To which Jeffrey Epstein says, girls, careful. I will renew an old habit. This week, Teal, Summers, Bill Burns, Gordon Brown, Jaglin, Council of Europe, and Nobel Chairman, Mongolia President. What are we in now? We're in 2014. Hardeep Pure, India. Boris, Gates, Jabor, Qatar. Sultan, Dai. Leon Blackwoody, you are a welcome guest at any. Also, if you think there are interesting people in town, everyone here for Climate Summit, Clinton Security Council. Holy shit, I'm on whatever for the next 30 minutes. To which Kathy says, doesn't look like you are prioritizing your schedule very effectively. How are you going to manage all of that? This is Unga week, so the boss will be in town too. I'll be here all week. You may get sick of me. Just sat down on the train so you can talk freely. Kathy Ruemmler, people. Who's she? Let me bring this up here. It's absolutely astonishing. Kathy Ruemmler, she's now at Goldman Sachs. Chief Legal Officer, General Counsel at Goldman Sachs. In addition to serving, let me just make sure that we're looking at the same thing because I changed my window. We are. In addition to serving as the firm's management committee, Ms. Ruemmler is the chair of the Firm-Wide Conduct Committee, co-vice chair of the Firm-Wide Reputational Risk Committee, IRNI, and a member of the Firm-Wide Enterprise Risk Committee. Prior to joining Goldman Sachs, Ms. Ruemmler was global chair at the White Collar Defense and Investigations Practice at Latham & Watkins LLP Limited Liability Partnership. She rejoined Latham's practice after serving in the White House as counsel to President Barack H. Obama. As President Obama's longest-serving White House counsel, Ms. Ruemmler advised the president on all legal matters related to domestic and foreign policy, national security. Ms. Ruemmler also served as a federal prosecutor for 7 years, including as principal associate deputy attorney general, to deputy director of the Enron Task Force and assistant United States attorney for the District of Columbia. Let me just see something. When, what? Oh, no, we don't. She's engaging. Let me just go back here so I can give everybody the link to the tweet. In 2014, she's actively engaging with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Does anybody not appreciate the depth of this? It's astonishing. Here, hold on. Let me bring this one up. This is from CanCon. Just getting back to who is colluding with, conversing with a known sex offender at the time. Longest serving in-house counsel to Barack Hussein Obama. CanCon Actual. Did Epstein collude with well-known author to blackmail President Trump? And did Dems just expose this like the derps they are? The ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, Rep. Robert Garcia, said, quote, "The more Donald Trump tries to cover up the Epstein files, the more we uncover. And these latest emails and correspondence raise glaring questions about what else the White House is hiding and the nature of the relationship between Epstein and the president. Glaring questions like, why is an author colluding with a known pedophile to try and blackmail the GOP frontrunner for president? Or, quote, generating a debt, end quote, if it looked like Trump could win. This sounds like Michael Wolff LLC should be under investigation." It sounds to me like Kathy Ruemmler should be under investigation as well. This is this is above and beyond the pre-conviction or the Bill Clinton visits to the White House. This is criminality of the highest order. Let's bring one up from the AF Post here. They posted something else. This is... And remember, everybody, remember who is telling you this. Because it's an amazing thing. I was on with Benny Johnson earlier today, and I posit my theory. Jeffrey Epstein was running a blackmail operation, working with intelligence. And people are like, what's the evidence of that, Viva? Other than the fact that he is known to have blackmailed Bill Gates. He is known to have been very close and invested in a company Ehud Barak was involved in, a cybersecurity company that would geolocate calls and video. Millions of dollars met with Ehud Barak post-pedophile conviction so many times, they probably, Ehud Barak probably knew where the bathroom was in his place. He was meeting with people who subsequently went on to be directors of the CIA. And now we see the knowledge and information that he had about other players in the White House. This is from the AF Post. News and alerts from around the world from an America First perspective, not affiliated with any organization. Jeffrey Epstein claimed that Hillary Clinton had a sexual relationship with former attorney and White House counsel Vince Foster. Foster committed suicide in 1983. Understand this. I really understand this. The time frame that we're talking about. Epstein with knowledge. Maybe it was common knowledge. How the hell do I know? Keep your schmeckle in your pants, people, and you'll live a long, healthy, happy life. At least you'll maximize the odds. Vince Foster committed suicide. We'll get to that in a second. The email reads, and it's from JEE Vacation to Michael Wolff, in response to a request from Michael Wolff saying, what's the thumbnail on Nussbaum Foster? Nussbaum, he says, is White House counsel. Hillary doing naughties with Vince Foster, a man who would since go on to commit suicide, allegedly. Check this out. How did he do it? Here. Foster had been a partner at Rose Law Firm in Little Rock, Arkansas, where, as the Washington Post later wrote, he rose to the pinnacle of Arkansas legal establishment. In July 1993, he was found dead of a gunshot wound in Fort Marcy Park. 5 official government investigations ruled his death a suicide, but several conspiracy theories emerged. Here, hold on. Let's just see the conspiracy theory. I want to say it was because I think it was because the shot was to the back of the head. I will find it later. So Vince Foster, according to the knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein, is having relations with Hillary Clinton in 1990. Well, it was pre-1993, obviously, for very obvious reasons. And Jeffrey Epstein knew this or claimed to have known this. And then, coincidentally or not, Vince Foster ends up allegedly taking his own life. I'm fairly certain the conspiracy theory was that he shot himself in the back of the head. Let's see here. How did Vince Foster... I'll just put the words down. I think the conspiracy, I think it was because it was a magnum to the back of the head, if I'm not mistaken. Family revolver. Did it in a park. Gunshot wound. And let me see, was it to the back? Was it to the back of the head? I'm fairly certain that's where the conspiracy theory comes from. That it would have been a very bizarre way to do it if it were legit. You know, like the other guy who was found hanging from a tree with 2 shotgun blasts to the chest and a shotgun 20 some odd feet away that got there because it projected out of the hand after he shot himself, after hanging himself. Yeah. Jeffrey Epstein had this info. This is what's been revealed today. I mean, and for the life of me, I'm going to get to this after we address the email address. I don't know why the Trump administration has been reversing course on the release of this. Some of you are saying it's all 3D, 4D chess, but Trump has said some things which, even if you're playing the 4D chess, you don't say because it will push a certain base away at a time when you need it. Anybody else pick up on the fact that Jeffrey Epstein's email address was jeevacation@gmail.com? Which email was this one? This is from Michael Wolff again. Is Clinton willing to say he was not there? By the way, I've just filed a column for USA Today for Monday explaining how Dershowitz and Andrew allegations were picked up from unverified civil court docs, transferred to UK tabs, which go wild because of no libel rules on US court papers, and then translated back here as reported fact. Interesting, he's describing something of a disinformation laundering. Problem with blank story is that tabs are too invested in present storyline, and unlikely that the Times or Wall Street Journal will want to touch it, though. Depending on who is willing to go on record, they might. There is another political reporter I know who might do it again if the on-the-record sources are public people, or I will use it for the New York Magazine, but that won't be until February. Can you still talk tomorrow? When works? Woody and Sun Yi coming for dinner tonight. 2015. It's amazing. JEE vacation. So I thought for a moment that this had to do with providing vacations, the types of vacations which you think some people travel abroad for because it's illegal here. And according to AI, for whatever it's worth, the theory is that, haven't been able to independently verify this yet, that he actually, Jeffrey Epstein, acquired or created those email addresses in 2008, 2009, give or take, to highlight the fact that the sentence that he was given subsequent to Alex Acosta's inexplicable sweetheart deal was basically a vacation. And so he created that email address either as, sociopathic mockery of the treatment that he was getting, or it had to do with something, my theory, which was vacations of sorts. That, as far as I can tell, are the biggest bombshells of the day. We're going to get to something in a second in terms of why I don't understand why the Trump administration has bungled this, because this could have been released when everyone was complaining that Pam Bondi hasn't released anything despite promising the release and then phase 2 after a phase 1, which was no phase at all. This would have been great to have published when people were freaking out about the apparent 180 and the alleged lack of transparency. Just another one here, by the way. Email from New York Times journalist Landon Thomas tipping Epstein off about follow-up investigations by journalist and former NYPD detective John Connolly. So we've got New York Times popping their head up here again. You know, Michael Wolff's connection was maybe a little antiquated, so it's old enough that you can say no connection at all. New York Times journalist Landon Thomas apparently notifying Jeffrey Epstein, and this is after Trump's election, 2017, that he is digging around again, not clear if it's another book or expanded paperback version, was asking me all sorts of questions about why you hired Ken Starr. This is to Jeffrey Epstein. I told him I had no idea. I think he's doing some Trump-related digging too. Anyhow, for what it's worth. Hey, heads up there, convicted sex trafficker, pedophile man. Another journalist from the New York Times is giving you a bit of a heads up that you might want to start thinking of how to get your story straight before anyone comes on and asks you for some details. You know, and 2 years later, he will no longer be capable of giving any details, conveniently enough. Why the hell did the Trump administration not even release these documents back when everybody was rightly flipping out? I have no flipping idea. And to those of you saying it's 4D chess, he got the media to demand it and yada, yada, that's fine. If that were the plan, he could have avoided truth posts like the ones where he said, if you're still asking for this, you're no longer my supporters or you're no longer my constituents. I forget exactly how he said it. He did not have to put out the post even today. Look, you can call it a hoax. You can call it a distraction, and that would be fine. But not to denigrate, undermine, and ostracize people who have been loyal to the administration to their own detriment, you know, professional, personal, financial, whatever, to put them in a spot where you're calling them traitors, for lack of a better word, for continuing to push a story that was important to Trump in 2016, important to Trump in 2020, important to the Trump administration in 2024, important to key members of the Trump administration throughout. There were other ways to play it if that were the play. So that doesn't save this play, but this stuff right here is flipping damning, it's flipping shocking, and it confirms what a lot of us already suspected, already knew, and just adds more evidence to it.